What's going on, team? It's good to see you guys. Today I thought I'd do a little video on one of my favorite lenses, the SONY ZEISS 50mm f1.4 planar design. Now I know I say that every lens is my favorite lens whenever I talk about it, but I'll tell you why this one has climbed to the top of the list of the 4 lenses that I use. Now this is one of Sony's lenses that has kind of flown under the radar. It is one of its oldest E-mount lenses. It came out in 2016. It's considerably more expensive than the extremely popular 55mm Sony Zeiss, but this one in particular I really prefer. I did buy the 55mm about a year ago before I bought this one, and while I thought that the lens was great and I love the colors and I thought that the sharpness was great, it didn't have the same feel as this lens. This lens is heavy. It's like 28 pounds. It's 28 something, and it's super hefty. Carrying it around all day, you start to really feel it. But the thing about it is it's an all metal construction, does have in-body image stabilization or whatever you call it. It comes with your manual focus, autofocus toggle switch, which is something that if you've watched any of my videos, you know is a must-have for me on a lens. It has the clickable aperture ring as well, so that comes in very handy for video, but it just feels good. It feels solid. The construction is fantastic, and the best thing about this lens is it is sharp, like sharp. Sharpity sharp. Paired with the eye autofocus of the A7 III, it is so sharp, it just never misses. One thing that this lens does incredibly well is the color rendering. Now the colors that it brings out are phenomenal. The Zeiss 3D pop that we've talked about before is without a doubt one of the coolest things about this lens. Taking your photos into Lightroom, the versatility and your ability to play with the colors is phenomenal. And for video, I've been able to color grade some of my interviews with this lens in a way that I haven't with others. It has an 11 bladed aperture, so the bokeh, the background that you get when you're at 1.4, it's just so dreamy, and it just blends in so beautifully. The bokeh is round and it's lush, and especially if you're doing anything that has some green background, trees and that sort of thing, that's probably one of my favorite things about this lens, is that background separation that you get from it. It's also an amazing portrait lens. 85mm is typically my go-to for portraits, but in this case it's a little bit more versatile. You get a little bit wider, you can do some cool environmental portraits or even some landscape type shots, but at 1.4 and that bokeh that you can get, that beautiful 3D pop, this is an amazing lens for portrait photography. Now I only use prime lenses, so I have the G Master 24mm, the Bodice 25mm, and then the Bodice 85mm in addition to this. So this is the most expensive lens in my kit. It retails right at about $1,500, but it is well worth the money. I think the 55mm floats around at like $800-900, and while it's light and compact and great for gimbals, this is actually not awesome for gimbals. The Moza Aircross 2, it can handle it, but it doesn't like it too much. It's pretty heavy and extremely front heavy, but at f1.4, the sharpness, the color, it is hands down the best lens in my kit, and well worth that $1,500 price tag. With the manual controls being so great for video and any sort of run and gun shooting, sort of the heft, just the feel. The focus throw is fantastic. I don't really know the details, the specs, but I really like using this in manual focus. This is overall just an amazing lens for the price, and I could not recommend this thing highly enough. So I hope that this was helpful. Hopefully it was slightly entertaining, and that it'll help you out if you're thinking about looking at a 50mm option for the Sony system. And I would love it if you considered subscribing and liking this video, but either way, I hope this was inspiring in one way or another. Now grab your camera, grab whatever lens you got, and get out there and be creative.